Good afternoon. My name is Sasha Larkin. I'm an assistant sheriff with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. I'm here to brief you on the details as we know them so far on officer-involved shooting that occurred on Saturday, November 25th, 2023. This is officer-involved shooting number 7 for 2023 and the third fatal shooting. At the same time last year in 2022, we were at 12 officer-involved shootings, with 7 of those being fatal. This event was initiated as a missing persons call for service on November 5th, 2023 at 2:55 a.m. The officer-involved shooting occurred at South Seaton Place and Edgemore Way in Las Vegas, Nevada, 89121. You can see at the map here on my left. The involved officers are Officer Philip Din. He is 29 years old and he has been with the LVMPD since 2021. In this incident, Officer Din was armed with a Glock 17 9mm equipped with a tactical light and optic. The investigation revealed he fired 6 rounds. The second officer is Officer Oscar Nuno Reynoso. He is 22 years old and has been with the LVMPD since 2022. In this incident, Officer Nuno Reynoso was armed with a Staccato P 9mm equipped with a tactical light. The investigation revealed he fired 3 rounds. The third officer involved is Officer Kyle Corso. He is 34 years old and he has been with the LVMPD since 2021. In this incident, Officer Corso was armed with a Glock 17 9mm equipped with a tactical light. The investigation revealed he fired 8 rounds. All 3 officers are assigned to the East Community Policing Division at Southeast Area Command. The suspect is identified as Robert Shane Pitcher. He was a 51-year-old white male adult, measuring 5 feet 9 inches and weighing approximately 195 pounds. He is pictured here on the screen to my left. Pitcher was armed with a large fixed-blade kitchen knife. You can see it here photographed on the screen. The following are Pitcher's charges had he survived the incident. 3 counts of attempt murder with a deadly weapon on a protected person. 3 counts of assault with a deadly weapon on a protected person. 1 count of resisting with a weapon. The details of the officer-involved shooting are as follows. On November 25th, 2023, at approximately 2:55 a.m., a woman called LVMPD Communications to report that her son, Pitcher, was feeling suicidal. The woman further stated Pitcher left the residence on foot and was armed with a knife. An officer was dispatched to the area to help locate Pitcher, but he was unsuccessful. The responding officer returned to Pitcher's residence and contacted his mother and wife to obtain additional details for the missing persons investigation. While the responding officer looked in the kitchen, he confirmed with the family that a knife was in fact missing. During the preliminary investigation, the officer learned that Pitcher and the Pitcher family had recently lost his son to an overdose. Before Pitcher left his residence, he told his family he was, quote, going to be with his recently deceased son. A few moments later, the responding officer exited the residence and observed Pitcher in the surrounding area. The responding officer immediately requested additional resources to help de-escalate the situation, as he believed Pitcher was still armed with a knife. As officers responded, they immediately established 2 immediate action teams to isolate Pitcher, who was armed, in a residential area. For awareness, LVMPD immediate action teams are comprised of officers with designated roles, emphasizing de-escalation tactics, communication, and low lethal options. As officers established communication with Pitcher, he placed the knife to his throat and refused the officer's repeated requests to drop it. Because Pitcher was armed with a knife, suicidal, and mobile in a residential neighborhood, officers discharged multiple low-lethal beanbag rounds at Pitcher to get him to drop the knife. After being struck with numerous low-lethal rounds, Pitcher focused his attention on the officers in the immediate action team while still armed with a knife. Officers continued their efforts to verbally de-escalate this dangerous situation. by subsequently deploying their electronic control devices at Pitcher to get him to drop the knife. Pitcher closed the distance between himself and the immediate action team. The officers showed great restraint and created more distance from Pitcher by moving back. While still armed with the knife, Pitcher again closed the distance between himself and the team of officers. His actions caused officers Din, Nuno Reynoso, and Corso to discharge their firearms. Pitcher was struck by gunfire and fell to the ground. Officers immediately transitioned to life-saving measures and began to work on Pitcher as medical personnel responded immediately to the scene. Before we play the body-worn camera, I want to highlight a few things regarding this officer-involved shooting that are really important. First, our officers showed great restraint and humanity when they encountered Pitcher by using communication and repeated low-lethal options to de-escalate the situation. Second, our officers undergo extensive crisis intervention training to communicate appropriately with those that are experiencing a mental or emotional crisis. Lastly, this is a reminder, please, to our community as we head into this holiday season. If you or someone you know is experiencing any sort of mental or emotional crisis, you can always contact the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-8255. Please use them as a resource for help. We will now play the body-worn camera from this officer-involved shooting. Our first video shows the initial responding officer making contact with Pitcher.
Robert? Hey, Robert, you're not in trouble, sir? You, Robert? Robert, what's going on? Control 103. I found my missing person. He's armed with a .413A though.
As you saw, the officer observed Pitcher with a knife and immediately created distance and requested additional units to help de-escalate the situation.
Is that a knife?
So if you can get a black and white over here,
I'm in trouble, man. We're just here to talk to you.
great cover.
Hey, keep talking.
Here you will see he's going to be struck with low lethal rounds.
Here to help you. Just put the knife down. Do we have a shotgun on this team? You don't want to put it down? Okay. Why not?
Can you have the shield?
Just put it down, man. Don't hide it. Just throw it on the ground. Just let go of it.
You need to plug the rifle, reattach your helmet.
You're not in trouble, Robert. We're here to help you. If he passes... Stop it, brother. Come on, man. Robert, just put the knife down. Robert, don't do it! Robert, just throw it on the ground, dude. Robert, don't do it, Robert! Do it! Drop it! Drop it!
Again, those are low lethal beanbag rounds being deployed.
One crossfire! Robert, drop the knife! Drop it, Robert! Robert, drop it! Robert! Get him again, get him again! Robert, drop the knife, sir. Just let it go. You want it? Rifles up. Drop it! Robert, drop it! Scoot back. Distance. Scoot back. Scoot back. Robert, down. I'm with you. Robert, back up. Robert, back up. Robert, drop that! Drop the knife! Robert! Drop it!
As you can see in this still image, Pitcher was still in possession of the knife as he advanced towards officers again. This concludes our briefing. Are there any questions?
How many total shots were fired? You said one fired 8, another fired 6, and what was the third one fired?
Yes, sir. So there was 18 low lethal rounds fired, and there was 17 handgun rounds fired.
Okay, I mean, is that restraint? 17 lethal rounds? Is that showing restraint?
Each investigation that has reportable deadly force, reportable use of force, whether it's low level force or deadly use of force, it is investigated thoroughly. Ultimately, each officer is going to have to justify their use of deadly force and each round that they fired. Look, as you know, we have 2 teams that investigate officer-involved shootings. We have a FIT investigation team, a force investigation team, that's going to look at all the criminal aspects of this officer-involved shooting. And then we have a critical incident review team that we refer to as the CERT team, and they're responsible for conducting a thorough administrative review of the deadly force to evaluate the officer's training, tactics, and decision-making, supervision, and the actual use of force. So to answer your question in full, ultimately, these teams, especially CERT, aim to identify any training, any needs, any gaps that the use of force may have had, the squad level, the supervision, and determine any necessary changes to the policy, training, or procedures.
Okay, it was one guy with a knife and he was shot 18 times, you said?
Mr. Pitcher unfortunately continued to close the
Why
distance
were
and
so
advance
many-
on
why did they
officers.
shoot him so many times?
Sir, the investigation is still underway. I
Yeah, but
appreciate it.
What was the reason? You should know right now why they shot that many rounds.
Because he was armed with a knife advancing
But
officers.
isn't that excessive?
The investigation is ongoing. They will
Alright,
have
nothing
further
else.
and better
Okay.
answers. Thank you. Any other
I
questions?
do have a question. I
Yes,
think
ma'am.
At the end of that last video, we heard somebody, and it sounded like one of the officers say taser.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that maybe a better way of addressing this kind of situation, or do you think they just responded in the best way? given-
They did try the taser. They deployed the taser twice, and they did not have success in obtaining neuromuscular incapacitation with the taser.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Any other questions? Okay, thank you for your time.